What does RAM mean to you? RAM, 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 Rampart, Ramekin, Ramen, Ramstein, Rambo, Ramanujan, Ram Ranch. We asked viewers what RAM means to them.
I used to be covered in hideous warts and boils, but ever since I started taking RAM, my skin's cleared up and I've noticed a 15% increase in muscle mass.
RAM is shit. The D shit. Sorry, I got confused.
Don't listen to them! They got you trapped here playing cash every day! All I need is protein!
RAM to me is, I don't know, a fucking indie game or something? Some kind of roguelike shooter? Devs keep saying there's no player character. Like, what does that even mean? Hello and welcome to RAM Devlog 2. For anyone who needs a refresher, this is the follow-up to a devlog released 6 months ago titled Designing a Game with No Player Character, in which I talked for about 20 minutes about designing a game with no player character, the TLDW being that you swap control between a bunch of different robots. The game looked like this, was balanced around a timer system that would kill you for spending too much time controlling one body, and was developed entirely by me and another guy named Toby. None of these things are true anymore. To say the very, very least, the fronts of progress since we last showed off RAM publicly
are numerous.
Basically every aspect of the game outside of its core combat mechanics has been overhauled, and so instead of presenting a focused look into one area of development like the last video, I'll have to break this one down into a few broad categories, such as the curse of actually making progress.
Oh, there's one more thing, sir.
Wait, Columbo says there's one more thing. Oh, right, that. I'll just let you see this for yourself. You can play it right now, right the fuck now on Steam. Go play the demo. Okay, back to the devlog. Those who watched the last devlog may recall that RAM looked something like this, and that we were actively calling for artists to join the team so we could stop using stock assets. Well, long story short, they did. Pro game dev tip. Turns out if you like the work of a stock asset creator but don't want to use stock assets, you can just hire them. That's right, baby, we got Pen USB Mike on the project, best known as the artist for Dome Keeper. Working from the designs created by our concept artist Gecko, he's given each of the current 4 playable bots a complete visual makeover, this time deriving form from function instead of the other way around. Although in the prior video I introduced the mechanical roles our cast of characters would play, that still leaves quite a lot out, and so now that they have their aesthetic identities finalized, I figure I owe them a proper introduction. Cue the music. A versatile chassis meets an enterprising mind in the Steel Toe, previously known as Shotgun Bot. Don't think us giving these grind-setting goons the gloss over in the first devlog means they aren't productive members of the post-apocalyptic anarchy. You don't fix what isn't broken, and the only thing broken about the Steel Toe is their speedrun viability. Putting mining hardware to crafty use as devastating improvised firearms, these self-made salary bots can all agree on the value of independent thought. And that jawline though. Designed for construction, these broad-back bar builder bots have graduated from hauling I-beams to hauling ass, specifically yours, directly into their fist. Don't read into it. Ask a deadlift the meaning of life and they'll reply as such: emotional authenticity, a balanced diet, and perpetually increasing muscle mass. The last two things are impossible, but bless them for trying. Though ironically too ferrous to pump iron, that won't stop these robo-bros from pumping futuristic mechatronic alloy until they literally die. Neither rain nor snow nor hails of high-caliber gunfire will stay these swift messengers about their duty, especially when that duty is looking cute and the messages are pipe bombs. When these you social little goblinoids say they have an image board to run, they mean that literally, up to and including running you over if you obstruct their logistic network. Remember to abide by forum rules, never shortchange on postage, and don't anger the admin team. Don't anger the admin. Though these thumbless green thumbs' love of landscaping has outlived the age of agriculture, they now eschew their water tanks and weed killer in want of more decisive methods. Aphids are armed with particular enough plant preferences to make Martha from the local homeowners association shit her pants and die, assuming they hadn't already burnt her house down in a horticultural holy war and fed her corpse to their peonies. They're also
militant fascists.
So anyway, the new sprite work is pretty good. Unfortunately though, the reality of game dev, as I've come to understand it, is that collaborating with artists on character designs is the fun part. The real struggle lies in these things: environmental tile sets. The reason for this is that, beyond just determining how your game's levels will look, the design of a tile set also determines how those levels will be made. Namely, whether they'll be made quickly, or slower than the death of Prometheus. Coincidentally, that's also about how fast production of my last video went, which meant that I was stuck working on that while this tile map development process was underway. As such, I'll pass this one off to Toby, who was actually, there.
Before talking about tile sets and art, we really need to start with level design. Let's take a quick trip back in time before the first devlog, before RAM was even a roguelike, back when it was a simple game jam game called... The map that version of the game used was a drab, lifeless donut, with enemies unceremoniously thrown at you. And although I don't mind relatively circular play spaces or horde modes, we knew this was not the best way for RAM and its combat to flourish. A roguelike was the obvious choice of genre, but how would our version of a roguelike work? Would it be a procedurally generated grid or handmade rooms in a sequence like Hades? Should it not be a roguelike at all and instead be a neon white fueled speedrunning game making best use of each bot's kit? Or an open explorable play space? Many evenings were spent at various local brewpubs discussing what the game loop should look like, and we settled on a system that uses a sequence of handmade floors randomly assembled into a level. Each floor can have a differing number of rooms based on what combat challenges it contains, allowing for some to be short and sweet, and some to be more exploratory. So now, we can finally get to the art. Or, at least the programmer art we made to graybox the levels. The process of grayboxing is when you lay out a play space using temporary art assets, and then you realize you don't know shit about level design. You also realize you don't really have the tools to make compelling levels the way you have them in your head, so you gotta write some code. Enter the Map Zone Manager. These bad boys can fit so much metadata in them. You can define the bounds of a room for the AI, spawn enemies with special aggro conditions and upgrades, or even allow for elevation in a 2D game. We added another layer of randomness here, as we could make multiple encounters that are randomly selected for the same room. So each time you play a level, you get to put your hand into the RNG grab bag and hope you don't ruin your speedrun with a bad spawn pattern. So now we had levels, and they were fun enough to play even if they looked like the Backrooms meets Chemical Plant Zone. The next step was to make them look like an actual game people would want to play. Enter the Gecko. Our art director is a polymath for not only concept art and character sketches, but design in general. And like all great artists, she steals. Not literally, of course. Just when two guys who don't know anything about art say, make it like Hyperlight Drifter, then she goes and dissects the things that make it tick. But not only HLD, also Hades, Into the Breach, Rainworld, and other beloved indie games. We spent hours looking at how they layered their tiles, what was decoration and what was a physical object, as well as how the lighting was made to affect only certain areas of the floor. So we just tried to copy what they did. By layering different opacities of decorations on floors or walls, you can achieve a lot of variation with comparatively few assets. By restricting certain lights to be on a specific layer, you can start to make some really cool effects. Add some scuffs, cracks, and some moss along with the scattering tool from Godot's tile map, and you can also be very lazy, but still make things look good. As we continue to improve on this workflow, we're still adding new art and decorations to really make the game as polished as possible. Keep in mind, this is all just for the first level of the game, which takes place in and around a derelict power plant built into the side of a mountain. The other levels will also have similarly fun post-apocalyptic theming. Put all this together, then bam, all of a sudden you have yourself a pretty nice play space. But you can't just have a nice room, you have to put things inside it. And so, like any good game, we added destructible objects. Tired of shooting murderous bots? The ceaseless violence isn't enough to satiate your thirst for destruction? Why not smash a shelf, your very own rage room in the palm of your hand? So to recap, we had randomly assembled levels that looked nice, a pseudo Mario Maker system to put things in them, and fun encounters to fight through. What was the other thing that all roguelikes have? Oh wait, what's that stick of RAM on the floor there?
Well, Toby, that's what us roguelike fans like to call an upgrade. Or item, perk, mutation, boon, tarot card, whatever. In RAM they're called upgrades, and they're not actually a new feature to the game at all. I referenced their existence in the previous devlog, but only in passing, since I figured that by current year, human society had progressed past the point where it needed to have roguelike upgrades explained to it. Looking back though, there's a couple unique details about how upgrades are implemented in RAM that warrant discussion. The first and most glaring point is that in normal roguelikes you control one character, and thus only upgrade one character. In RAM though, you play within a single run as no fewer than 4 different robot types, 8 once we add the rest, each with a completely unique moveset and potential builds to craft. This made it immediately clear that upgrades in RAM would have to be specific to one type of bot, as this would let us curate how each base moveset would evolve into a range of several possible builds. On top of that, we could afford to make many of the upgrades zany as all get out, since what in a game like Hades would be a run-defining Daedalus hammer boon is, in RAM, only relevant to a small slice of a run's build crafting pie. At first we toyed with the idea of letting players choose which bots would receive the upgrades, but quickly realized this was a dangerous path to tread. RAM's premise is realized to its fullest when the player is swapping fluidly between many different bot types, pivoting on a mental dime between the skill sets they've built up for each playstyle. For this to work, it's crucial that some level of balance be maintained between the power of the bots as the run progresses, a balance that would almost certainly crumble to ruin in the face of the objectively optimal strat of dumping every upgrade into your favorite bot and never swapping to anything else. To prevent players optimizing the game's central mechanic into non-existence, we simply elected to take full control of that optimization out of their hands, and present most upgrades as a choice between 3 random options.
Kinda like Hades.
This approach will sometimes let you slot the next puzzle piece into your favorite bot's meta-destroying Death Star build, but more often than not will refuse to be so cooperative, and might even tempt you into uncharted waters with a rare upgrade for a bot that you were previously sleeping on. The second unique point about RAM upgrades actually has more to do with the next topic, so title card, please. Stop me if this sounds familiar. You are playing Ultra Pizza May Cry for the first time. Your eyes drift to the top corner and are met by an imposing mass of symbols. Your brain recognizes this to be a style system. You are dimly aware that the symbols carry some encoding of how cool of a gamer you are, but since you're used to playing roguelikes where the goal is simply to survive and progress, you conclude that the system is meant for speedrunners and degenerates, and proceed to ignore it forever. Now, as something of an epic gamer myself, I of course understand that the true purpose of a style system is to guide players toward engaging with your mechanics on a deeper and more enjoyable level. Even knowing that playing stylishly is in my best interest though, when push comes to shove, I still often find myself following the path of least mechanical resistance, unless the game gives my monkey brain some tangible reward for trying harder. So, approaching RAM with this in mind, I made it something of a personal mission to resolve this dissonance, to make stylish play not optional, but instead optimal. To incentivize style, one must first define what it is to be stylish. This definition is given in RAM by the fitness score, an internal metric of the AI through which you control the robots. According to this AI, who has very good taste by the way, killing enemies is stylish. Swapping between a variety of different robots is also stylish. What's most stylish of all though is killing enemies with trick shots. There are many different trick shots in RAM. Here's how they get added to the game. Step 1, I do something while playtesting that makes me feel like a cool badass. Step 2, the game fails to acknowledge my clutch play. Step 3, I Alt F4 the game in disgust and immediately add that interaction as a trick shot that'll give me the point bonus I damn well deserve. Rinse and repeat until the trick shot list forms. Here's where things get a bit radical. Unlike most roguelikes, upgrades in RAM are not free. Each one you find must be purchased with fitness score, the same score you earn by being stylish. In isolation, this may sound excessively punishing to new players, but the trick is that even killing enemies in the most milquetoast manner imaginable still nets you a baseline quantity of score. The price of upgrades that drop naturally in levels is designed to eat through most of this baseline, leaving the extra fitness gained through bot variety and trick shots as the quote-unquote profit margin that accumulates over the course of a run. Stylish players can then cash in the surplus score for extra upgrades at a shop, with the net effect that snazzier play results in stronger builds over time. New players won't be outright crushed for ignoring the style system, but may start finding the run struggle to keep up with the late game difficulty scaling until they confront the learning curve of not playing RAM like a cover shooter. I said earlier that the point of a style system should be to push the player to interact with the game in the most engaging way possible, what you could call the intended playstyle. Well, in RAM, to be blunt, the intended playstyle is to use the main mechanic of the game. Please and thank you. Of course, telling you this is the game's job, and the way it's going to do that is by tying 3 of the most valuable trick shots, as well as the whole variety multiplier system, to swapping. But even then, swap juice is such a powerful defensive resource that getting the player to spend it proactively in search of points is a pretty big ask. So the final piece of the style system puzzle is to give a unique swap juice regen bonus to any trick shots that require swapping. This means that offensive swaps, as long as you pull off the trick shot you were going for, partially pay for themselves, and can be more easily chained into additional offensive swaps to rack up yet more score. Oh, wait, did I never explain the new swap system? The original swap timer, as seen in the first devlog, was a simple and elegant system for governing short bursts of horde mode survival gameplay. Once we started moving RAM toward a roguelike format with longer runs though, it rapidly became clear that the binary live or die timer bar was far too brittle to maintain. Asking players to do longer runs in a system where one mistake is death means the game either gets exponentially harder, or you, as the dev, force the mistakes to be exponentially easier to avoid. The problem is that, taken to an extreme, this results in a game that's brain-dead easy 99% of the time, except when it blindsides you with freak accidents. This is just the experience of being an IRL human being, and everyone I know says the gameplay loop for that is dog shit. The solution to this quandary was to throw the timer out and replace it with something we dubbed Swap Juice. It's a highly abstract resource that, would you believe it, lets you swap. During gameplay, you have access to two reserves of Swap Juice, a local bar and a global bar. The local bar is what you normally draw from. It holds 2 swaps worth of juice and recharges as you kill enemies, similar to how you'd lower the swap lockout bar in the old timer system. If you absolutely need to swap but don't have enough juice in the local bar, you can make up the difference by dipping into your global juice reserve, which holds enough for 5 swaps. This is a bit like siphoning money from your college fund to pay a medical bill. It'll get you out of a tough spot, but you're not getting that juice back anytime soon. Finally, to encourage proactively swapping to avoid danger instead of just waiting to die and using the swap juice like a glorified health bar, we made swapping out of a dead host take 50% more juice than swapping from a live one. Also, in the worst case scenario where you manage to die without anything nearby to swap into, you'll currently be revived at the cost of a heavy penalty to your global juice, but we have ideas for some more interesting ways to handle this in the future. Well, that's the bulk of the new progress anyway. Of course, it's impossible to condense all the events of the last 7 months down into a 15-minute video, so I'll use the Patreon credits here to talk over a few additional tidbits and announcements. First and foremost, though it's hard to show off music through the visual medium of a devlog, RAM now has a hot, fresh, original soundtrack by the massively multi-instrumental musician Nahu Pyrope, who I happen to know from an Undertale Skype group back in 2016, please don't ask. Bottom line is, he's really good, and you should play the demo if you want to hear what he's cooked up for us. Speaking of the demo, you heard the part where it's available now on Steam, right? You know, publicly, for free? Oh good, you did. Just wanted to make sure. It's got unlockable skins and lore tidbits and shit. Wouldn't want you missing out on that. Getting feedback about balance and stability at this point is very valuable, so if you do play the demo, don't be shy about dropping by our dedicated RAM Discord server, link in the description, and hassling us about crashes or whatever. Or you can just post your new speedrun times, fan art, whatever the fuck this is, etc. Also, consider wishlisting RAM while you're on the store page. It helps a lot to promote the game. Now, a question for you. How long do you want to wait for RAM? We're considering an early access launch next year that would include the hub, a second level complete with a boss, as well as 2 new playable bots. If you don't have a burning hatred for early access and think this would be a worthwhile package, let us know in the comments. Finally, an exciting and exclusive announcement for those real RAM heads who watched all the way to the end of the credits. RAM has officially been granted a booth at the Seattle Indies Expo, which I assume is like PAX or E3, but if they filtered out all that, boring AAA stuff. It's a free event taking place on Sunday, September 3rd. If you're in the Seattle area, come by to say hi, play RAM, grab a cute bot sticker, get your copy of Umris signed, or whatever other sick fancies your soul may harbor. The expo is the same weekend as PAX, so we'll also be attending that convention as fans. If you see us waddling around in our RAM t-shirts, don't hesitate to attract our attention by loudly proclaiming the secret code phrase.
Let that sink in.
As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for something. You'll see. Toby has to go back to university this fall, so I'll need to stay fairly present on the game dev front to hold down the fort, but I do have plans for some smaller, weirder, non-RAM videos in the near future. Unless Toby Fox decides to drop Chapter 3, in which case, I guess I'll see you in hell.